What's happening YouTube? Welcome back to a brand new video. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about the cost and the spend of Project Alfa. If you don't know what Project Alfa is, go back and check out my other videos. There'll be a link in either this side or this side in a minute to the playlist of Project Alfa. But basically what it was the UK's cheapest Alfa Romeo Giulietta that I bought to put back on the road and sell on to see if I can make a profit. I believe that it was a good investment at the time, but by the end of this video you'll find out whether I made any money or not. But before we get into that, we need to get rid of the dust on the ST, which you've just seen in the opening cut. So we're going to give it a quick look. Let's get this dusty ST cleaned, get the dust off it, and then we'll talk about the cost of the oil. It, we're done. Like I said, this is not an in-depth clean. The car was shine underneath, it's got a layer of polish and wax on it already. It was just to get that dust off and that sand off the car, that's all we're doing. So let's get back to the Type R seat. Let's talk about Project Alfa. Right then, Project Alfa. Project Alfa is complete. The car is sold. Actually, I sold the car about I think I sold the car in about May time, and it's now September. So, you know, these videos has been a long time coming. I've just been so busy with life and work, but I've got my phone. I kept a page open in notes on my phone where I documented all the cost of everything that I've bought and spent right down to the last penny, so we could talk about whether I made money or not. As I said then, if you don't know what Project Alfa was, it was the first project of BAM Motors in 2023 and the only one so far. I've not managed to come across another car yet, although there is a Cooper S parked up with, that's been there for about the whole time I had Project Alfa. It's not moved. Don't know if one of my neighbours is listening, but if you are, knock on my door because I'm interested. But anyway, Project Alfa. So Project Alfa more found me than I found it. It was a friend at work, it was an MOT failure, he'd sold his house, it was sat on his drive, he just needed rid of the car. I kind of stepped in and pounced and saw an opportunity and bought the car cheap. Now my initial thoughts were that I was going to break the car for parts, so that's why I lowballed him as much as I did to get the car as cheap as I could, because it's a little bit more difficult to sell the car for parts and make money than it is to sell the car as a whole. But I looked at the car, I thought it was rescued. My dad looked at the car, my brother looked at it, and they said, you know what, this rust that the car had is repairable and the car is worth saving. So that's what we did. I mended the car and we moved it on. So the car did need a little bit of work, so what I'll do is I'm going to cover the cost of all the bits that I spent on the car, and then I'll tell you what the overall cost of the car was. Now if this is the first video of Project Alfa you're seeing, you've watched them in the wrong order, because this is the last video of Project Alfa talking about the cost. But if you go back into the start of it, you'll know how much I paid, because I've mentioned it quite a few times in a few other videos. But the first thing we needed to tackle on Project Alfa is the reason it failed its MOT. Now the main reason it failed its MOT is because it had rust. Now it said that the rust was in a suspension area, but when I investigated it, it was on the rear sill. Now I was lucky here because my brother is an accident repair body shop mechanic, if that's the terminology, and that's what he does for a living. That's what he's done since he left school, so he was quite happy to do that work for me, and I didn't really have to pay for materials. All that I had to buy really was the paint and the lacquer. He brought stuff from his work and did the materials that he needed to do what he needed to do to fix the rust, and then I just painted that corner of the rear sill. So the paint and the lacquer cost me £26.94. So that was the first thing we needed to do. The other reason this car failed its MOT was on emissions, and because it had a coolant leak. Now when I did a bit of investigating, it turned out that the coolant leak was coming from the EGR valve cover, which is quite common on these 2 litre turbo diesel engines. So if it's leaking, which then affected the emissions. So I then replaced the EGR valve cooler, and I serviced it at the same time as well. So I gave the car a full service, which included a pollen filter, air filter, oil filter and fuel filter. So the EGR cover was £70.50 and the service kit was £151.47, and that included replacement coolant and deionized water to fully flush the coolant system on the car. Yeah, so they were, and while I was servicing it, I noticed that the sump plug bolt was round. Wait for these to disappear now. I noticed that the sump plug bolt was round, so I had to buy a replacement sump plug, and that cost me £8. I then replaced, there was a bleed nipple in the coolant system that snapped. The replacement one of them was £5.99, and then we went for the car's MOT. So I did the rust repair, EGR, full service, new coolant. Oh, and I also had the lights refurbished. Basically the lights had like all gone yellow, they're oxidised if you would, they'd all gone yellow. So I took them off and I sent them to my mate down at DPD Detail, and did a fantastic job of kind of sanding them back and buffing them, and he charged me 50 quid. I then took the car for its MOT. Oh, we put a tyre on. I put a tyre on the car as well, which cost me £40, and I sent the car for its MOT, which cost me £40. So all my parts there, and including my labour, the car cost me £476.90. That's what the car cost me in parts. Yeah, obviously I've not had to spend any money on labour because I've done all the work myself. So I'm into the car for £476.90. Now, did we make any money? Now, what I'll tell you is that I sold this Alfa Romeo Giulietta for £2,700. That's how much I sold this car. This Alfa Romeo Giulietta, the car that I bought in January of this year, that was the cheapest Alfa Romeo Giulietta in the country, in my opinion, cost me £350. That's right, £350, which means my total investment in this car was £826.90, which means I made, I'm not even working this out, so I sold the car for 2,700 minus 826.90. I made £1,873.10. Now that is not bad going for the first project on this YouTube channel. But here's the challenge then. So Lee Lockwood started a series with a Volkswagen Bora called The Road to 10K. Now I'm calling you out, Lee. If you're watching this video, and I don't know if you are, but if you watch this video, or if any of his followers watch this video, Lee, I am calling you out. I'm going to beat you to 10K. That's my challenge for you. That's the title of this video. Can we beat It's Lee Lockwood to 10K? So, on to the last bit then. If you know of a car that's parked up somewhere that might need a little bit of work, MOT, Instagram down below, email down below, drop me a message, let me know what it is. I am interested in buying the next car. If you've got a project car, let me know. Lee Lockwood, if you do watch this, I've called you out. Comment down below, I will beat you to 10K. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much for watching. Let's go and put an up on that Cooper.